unwrap it, leaving the shape intact, and rewrap it. No big deal. Once you have your square that's as even as you can make it, place it in the fridge overnight for 12 hours.
Wow.
I'll have like a sample timing schedule below in the description if you need. Now, on day 2, it's time to laminate our dough. So, with butter, you can imagine that this is one of the most important ingredients in the entire
What kind of
recipe.
butter is this?
So don't skimp out on what kind of butter you get. Don't get some cheapo butter. Dish out some extra cash and get some good European butter. The reason why is because you want butter that has a higher butterfat percentage. Higher butterfat percentage means
so what's
better
important?
layers rather than something with a lower butterfat percentage
That's
because
what
it
you
has
said.
less water in it,
It
which
should.
makes it a little bit more firm and more pliable to withstand all of those folds and thin layers. Anyway, so you're going to measure out 138 grams of European style butter. Make sure that you cut the pieces of this butter as evenly as possible. You'll see why later. Now, using another sheet of wax paper, you're going to carefully lay out your evenly sliced pieces of butter until they're roughly 4 inches by 4 inches. I would leave a little bit of space, maybe make it about a ½ inch smaller or even an inch smaller.
I guess
on all the
we are
edges
gonna
because you're going to pound it out just like we
place
did with
this
the dough.
in
Now
the
we're ready
middle
to
of the
start pounding it
dough.
out into a little square. If you have little odd bits, by the way, you can see that I put that one right on top. It's no big deal. So we're going to fold this just like we did with the dough, making sure that the edges of the wax paper itself are 4 inches by 4 inches. It's okay if the butter is not because we're going to pound it out and have it conform to the shape of the wax paper. Once the wax paper has been folded into a 4 inch by 4 inch square, flip it over so the seam side is down, and using a rolling pin, lightly pound out the butter so that it spreads out to the edges, and roll it out to smooth it until you get a even 4 inch by 4 inch square block of butter, aka known as a barrage. Then place it in the fridge to chill for 15 to 25 minutes. Once that's done, lightly flour a work surface and
so
pull
it's
your
time to
pre-shaped
knead.
dough out of the fridge. Now this part is very important, so take caution when doing it. With your rolling pin, sort of like flatten out and elongate all of the edges of your dough. Lightly flatten out
Just
the
to
middle so that
slightly
there's not too much of
elongate
a bump
it.
there. And then place your butter in the center of your dough diagonally so that the edges are facing the opposite of the edges of the dough. And then you're going to take each edge of the dough and stretch and fold it over the butter, sort of encasing the butter
I know
in a
it is
dough envelope. And it should be pretty much
some kind
relatively
of way
square
with one
once you've
layer.
done that. Make sure that it is totally encased and no butter is poking out whatsoever. Pinch and close the edges shut and just let it sit for a minute or two. You want to make sure that the butter isn't completely rock hard when you roll it, otherwise it'll just kind of break up a little bit. Then lightly flour a rolling pin in the top of your dough.
Guys,
And before you
this is
start
the
rolling,
most
you're going to take your
important
rolling pin
aspect.
and you're going to lightly press down on segments of the dough. I sort of pre-rolled there for a second, not supposed to do that. And then you're going to press down multiple times along the entire length of the dough. This is sort of helping encase the butter and just kind of getting the butter pressed towards the edges of the dough before you actually do the rolling. Alright, and now we're going to begin the rolling process. So, you're going to roll with even pressure and roll this dough into a long rectangle that is roughly 18 inches in length. Try and keep it in as much of a rectangular shape as you can, and also try not to rock back and forth with your rolling pin. You'll notice that I'm specifically going only in one direction in each roll when I'm rolling this dough. And make sure that you're keeping even pressure the entire way. If you do it unevenly,
And
the butter
keep
will
in
be
mind
unevenly
it
distributed.
has
So
to
it's
be
really
rectangular
important
enough.
that
Are
you're
we to
careful here when
trim
you're rolling.
those
Now, once that's
excess
done and it's reached roughly
parts?
18 inches in length, you're going to grab the bottom of the dough, the part that's closest to you, and fold it 3/4 of the way up the rectangle, and then take the top half and fold it the rest of the quarter of
I
the
think
way
this is
until
just
both
some kind
ends
of
meet evenly.
formula. The
Lightly pat
pattern
those down
is
so that
kind
they
of
stick, and
similar.
then fold the longer bit over the shorter bit,
So the one
making
being
an
with
envelope
Barbie
shape.
usually is to do.
Using a rolling pin, very lightly tap that down so that all the layers are stuck together. Do not press it, just lightly tap it, and then wrap it in plastic wrap and rest it in the fridge for 1 hour. Once that hour is up, we're ready for our second and final fold. So unwrap your dough, place it on a lightly floured work surface, and this time when we're rolling it, make sure that you're rolling it the long direction of the dough. Now, we already rolled it one direction the other way, so we're not going to roll it the same direction and make it into like a wider rectangle. You're going to keep this into sort of like a long, skinny rectangle. So same as before, give it a little bit of a tap along the entire surface of the dough, and then roll it the same exact way you did last time with even pressure, keeping it an even long rectangle shape that is about 18 inches in length. Now this time we're going to fold it letter style. You're going to grab the top part and fold it 1/3 of the way down, and then the bottom part folding it so that it overlaps evenly on the other side. Then you're sort of ending up with almost a perfect square. I had to make a little bit of adjustment here, but make sure that it's even so that it's an even square and there's no weird overlapping or underlapping. I don't know if that's a word. Now this is the part where you're going to decide whether it's going to be a 2 or 3 day process. You're going to wrap it up in plastic wrap as usual and place it in the fridge for 12 hours, for up to
That
12 hours,
pass.
or just 1 hour. It's up to you. I personally choose to do it into 3 days because it just makes it a little bit better for a final product. But if you are strapped for time, you can totally just let it rest for an hour in the fridge. There's two reasons why we're letting this rest. A, it's because we don't want the butter to melt and we want to make sure to keep the butter cold. And B, we want the gluten to have time to relax. Because if the gluten is tough, then whenever you try to roll it, it's going to resist you rolling and you're just going to press all those beautiful butter layers into the